Do I speak now?
Do I speak now? Do I speak now?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arijit Basu, for that introductory remark and the welcome address. Good morning, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, and good morning to all participants. I hope my voice is audible. ये मेरा voice जरा उसको I should not. Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I should not. Yeah, there is some problem in the sound. Let me just correct it. Yeah, some echo. No, I should not be hearing my voice.
I'm just switching on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there was some echo was coming, so they are trying to correct the technology. Okay, a very warm good morning to all of you. I wish to thank the State Bank of India for having invited me to deliver the keynote address today. I did manage to listen to one of the sessions which you had last evening. Very productive and useful discussions. The Chairman SBI and other eminent participants, I had the occasion to watch that. I sincerely appreciate the efforts of the organizing team in putting together this virtual conference, which has in fact become the new normal today. Banks and other financial entities are today at the forefront of the country's countermeasures against the economic impact of COVID-19. They are the transmission channels for RBI's monetary, regulatory and other policy measures. They are also the implementation vehicles for the financial backstop measures announced by the government. I should not hear my voice. You can. No, but I am hearing my voice. Okay. I hope my voice is clear to the participants. Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, am I audible? Am I clear enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic is unambiguously the worst health and economic crisis in the last 100 years during peacetime, with unprecedented negative consequences for output, jobs, and well-being. It has dented the existing world order, global value chains, labor and capital movements across the globe, and needless to say, the socio-economic conditions of large sections of the world population. The COVID-19 pandemic perhaps represents so far the biggest test of robustness and resilience of our economic and financial system. In the extraordinary circumstances that we face today, history could provide us with some useful guidance in respect of the role of central banks. Guided by the age-old wisdom summarized in Bayjort's dictum that ascribes the role of the lender of the last resort to the central bank, the Reserve Bank of India has taken a number of important historic measures to protect our financial system and support the real economy in the current crisis. While the eventual success of our policy responses will be known only after some time, they appear to have worked so far. And that gives us a lot of satisfaction, and that inspires us also to take further measures. While reiterating our intent and dedication to steer the economy through the crisis, I would like to highlight certain key aspects of our policy measures. So what I propose to do is to sort of very briefly highlight some of the measures that we have taken, some of the approaches, our broad approach during the current crisis, and with special reference to the aspect of financial stability, because as you know, the central bank, while looking after aspects of reviving growth, supporting the measures being taken by the government in terms of carrying out necessary changes and announcing necessary measures in areas that are in the domain of the Reserve Bank. But at the same time, above all, the Reserve Bank is responsible for the financial stability of the country. And this is one area where I think the Reserve Bank and the financial institutions, and in particular the banks, will have to work in close coordination and in close cooperation to ensure the stability of the financial system in the country. Now, let me first briefly touch upon the monetary policy measures which we have taken. As you would be already aware, the RBI was already in an accommodative stance before the outbreak of COVID-19. And from February 2019 onwards, on cumulative basis, we had cut the repo rate by 135 basis points till the onset of the COVID-19. Now, consistent, and that was done mainly to sort of to tackle the slowdown in growth which was visible at that time, and we had elaborately touched upon it in our MPC resolutions. Now, consistent with this policy stance, when liquidity conditions, we had also kept them in ample surplus. The lagged impact of these measures was about to propel a cyclical turnaround in economic activity when COVID-19 brought with it calamitous misery, endangering both lives and livelihood of people. Given the uncertainty regarding the evolution of COVID curve, it was absolutely critical to anticipate the emerging economic risks and take proactive monetary policy actions of sizable magnitude using comprehensive range of policy instruments. The fast-changing macroeconomic environment and the deteriorating outlook for growth necessitated off-cycle meetings of the Monetary Policy Committee, first in March and then again in May 2020. The MPC has decided, as you would be aware, to cumulatively cut the policy repo rate by 115 basis points. So from February 2019, the total rate cut that RBI has undertaken is 250 basis points. Now, we also focused on liquidity measures. I would not like to go into the details of that. They're already in the public domain. They are known to you. But I would like to just say that both conventional and unconventional monetary and liquidity measures by the Reserve Bank were undertaken, and they were aimed at, number one, restoring market confidence. Number two, alleviating liquidity stress. Number three, easing financial conditions. Number five, unfreezing credit markets. And number six, augmenting the flow of financial resources to those in need for productive purposes. The broader objective was to mitigate the risks to growth outlook while preserving financial stability. The liquidity measures announced by the RBI since February 2020 aggregate to about rupees 9.57 lakh crore, which is equivalent to 4.7% of 2019-20 nominal GDP. So about 4.7% of the GDP. That is the kind of liquidity measures which we have announced from February this year. Now, heading into the pandemic, the financial system of the country was in a much improved position, owing mainly to the various regulatory and supervisory initiatives which the Reserve Bank had undertaken. We had put in place a framework for resolution of stressed assets, the 7th June circular, and the various other measures that Reserve Bank had undertaken, in addition to implementing multiple measures to strengthen credit discipline and to reduce credit concentration. For 5 years between 2015-16 to 2019-20, the government had infused a total of rupees 3,08,000 crore in public sector banks. As a result of efforts by both Reserve Bank and the Government of India, the overhang of stressed assets in the banking system had declined and capital position has considerably improved. As per available numbers, some of which are provisional at this point of time, the overall capital adequacy ratio of scheduled commercial banks stood at 14.8% in March 2020 compared to 14.3% in March 2019. The CRAR of public sector banks had also improved from 12.2% in March 19 to 13% in March 20. The gross NPA ratio and the net NPA ratio of the scheduled commercial banks stood at 8.3% and 2.9% in March 2020, which is basically a kind of a marginal improvement over 9.1% gross NPA and 3.7% net NPA as on March 19. The provision coverage ratio had also improved from 60.6% 60.5% in March 19 to 65.4% in March 20. The gross NPA of the NBFCs, on the other hand, they stood at 6.4% and that was the gross NPA was 6.4% and the net NPA was 3.2%. There was a slight marginal deterioration because, as you know, post IL&FS, there was a big impact on the NBFC sector, but notwithstanding that, we were constantly engaged with the NBFCs. So therefore, there was marginal deterioration. Similarly, their CRAR, the aggregate CRAR of the NBFC sector also marginally declined from 20.1% to 19.6% during 1920. What is important to notice here is that when the IL&FS crisis hit the economy, there were apprehensions that the damage to the NBFC sector could be even more. But because of the measures which Reserve Bank undertook, I have mentioned it earlier that we were constantly engaged with, we were very closely monitoring 50 top NBFCs, and thereafter we started monitoring totally 100 NBFCs, and we had ensured that from June of 2019, the system liquidity was adequately surplus. So all these helped the situation. Now, an important objective of Reserve Bank supervisory initiative, let me just highlight a little bit on what we are doing currently under supervision, because in a crisis like COVID, when there is a big challenge to financial stability, now growth is definitely important. That is one of topmost priority for the Reserve Bank. At the same time, equal priority has to be given, or perhaps greater priority, I would say equal priority. Let me not sort of try to say this is more important and this is less important, but equal priority has to be given to the aspect of financial stability. So therefore, the supervision mechanism of RBI also has been receiving close attention. The important objective of RBI supervisory initiative has been to put in place systems and structures to identify, assess, and proactively mitigate or manage the vulnerabilities among the financial institutions. During the last 1 year, based on assessment of events which had the potential to pose a threat to financial stability, the Reserve Bank has in fact reorganized its supervisory functions with an objective of establishing a holistic approach to regulation and supervision. These measures, they basically aim at effectively addressing the potential systemic risks that could arise due to possible supervisory or regulatory arbitrage and information asymmetry. Further, a calibrated approach has been designed to provide the required modularity and scalability to the supervision functions to ensure better focus on risky institutions and practices, and to enhance capability to conduct horizontal or thematic studies across supervisory entities. As a fulcrum of the calibrated supervisory approach, the Reserve Bank has strengthened its off-site surveillance mechanism. Now, this is very important. Internally, we have, based on technology, thanks to the the CRILIC system and the other technology tools that we have at our disposal, we have strengthened our internal off-site surveillance mechanism to identify emerging risks and assess the vulnerabilities across the supervised entities for timely action. We are also working towards strengthening the supervisory market intelligence capabilities of Reserve Bank with the help of both personal and technological intelligence. Specialized handling of weak institutions at the Reserve Bank now helps in closure monitoring and successful resolution of such entities in a non-disruptive manner. The timely and successful resolution of the Yes Bank is an example. After exhausting all other possible options, and with a view to safeguard the interest of depositors and ensure stability of the financial system, we decided to intervene at an appropriate time when the net worth of the bank, that is Yes Bank, was still positive. The Yes Bank reconstruction scheme forged a unique public-private partnership between leading financial entities of India, and it was implemented in very quick time, which helped the bank's revival, successfully safeguarded the interest of the depositors, and ensured financial stability. I wish to, at this point of time, compliment the State Bank of India for providing leadership to this initiative. With regard to the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, the Reserve Bank is engaged with all stakeholders to find a workable solution, as losses are very high, eroding deposits by more than 50%. With regard to NBFC's active engagement with stakeholders was found to be extremely useful. I have just mentioned about that. Now, considering their size and interconnectedness, the Reserve Bank has taken a number of measures which are already in the public domain, so I don't want to elaborate on that. But in the case of UCBs, let me just touch upon a few points. Special efforts are being made towards a risk-based and proactive supervisory approach to identify weaknesses in their operations as early as possible. An early warning system with a stress testing framework has also been formed for timely recognition of weak banks for appropriate action. Formation of an umbrella organization has also been approved. The exposure limits of UCBs have also been brought down, and priority sector targets have also been revised substantially to ensure that the UCBs lend specifically and more to the sectors for which the UCBs, the urban cooperative banks, have been formed and for which they are operating. The recent amendments to the Reserve Bank of India Act and the Banking Regulation Act will facilitate RBI's supervision process with respect to NBFCs and the urban cooperative banks respectively. Now, let me just come to the aspect of RBI's response to the pandemic. As part of response to the pandemic, the RBI has undertaken a series of measures which are already in public domain, as I have already said. Besides, Reserve Bank's focus was also to ensure that contingency response to COVID-19 was implemented by all regulated entities swiftly. Now, as early as 16th March, in fact, when COVID was just about setting into India, we had written to all banks and other supervised entities, financial institutions which are regulated by the RBI. We had written to them to prepare their business continuity plans and to have mechanisms and measures in place to deal with the emerging challenges. All entities were advised, including banks, were advised to assess the impact of COVID-19 on their balance sheet, asset quality, and liquidity, and take immediate contingency measures to manage their risks. And that we did in March 16th. Now, as the lockdown has obstructed our on-site supervisory examination to an extent, we are further enhancing our off-site surveillance mechanism, and the objective of the off-site surveillance mechanism is to smell the distress, if any, and be able to initiate preemptive actions. This requires use of market intelligence inputs on an ongoing engagements with financial institutions on possible or potential vulnerabilities. The off-site assessment work, which takes into account macro and micro variables, is more analytical and forward-looking and aimed at identifying vulnerable sectors, borrowers, as well as supervised entities. While multi-pronged approach adopted by the Reserve Bank has provided a cushion from the immediate impact of the pandemic on banks, the medium-term outlook is uncertain and depends on COVID-19 curve. Policy action for the medium term would require a careful assessment, and this is very important. Policy action for medium term would require a careful assessment of how the crisis unfolds, building buffers and raising capital. I repeat, building buffers and raising capital will be very crucial, not only to ensure credit flow, but also to build resilience in the financial system. We have very recently, that is on 19th June and again on 1st July, advised all banks and NBFCs that to sort of analyze and do COVID stress test and analyze the impact of COVID-19 on their balance sheet, asset quality, liquidity, profitability, and capital adequacy for the financial year 2020-21 and also for the next year. Based on the outcome of such stress testing, banks and non-banking financial companies have been advised to work out possible mitigating measures including capital planning, capital raising,